Welcome to the Basketball Parents Journey podcast, where we capture parents' stories about their journey so far and what has worked and not worked for them. Listen as parents share their wisdom across a wide spectrum of experience from beginners to college athletes and their recommendations for you as your player embarks on the next stage of their basketball journey from beginner to high school player and beyond. Hey guys.
Hey.
Welcome.
How's it going?
Great. Thanks for joining me. How's your day going?
Doing good so far. I heard that you're in North Carolina.
I am, yeah.
Kelly said something last night when we were at the session last night.
Oh, okay. Yeah, down here visiting family and doing some work for my other job while I'm down here.
Good for you.
Nice.
Saw your guys' interview on the schedule. I didn't want to change it. I've been trying to line up some interviews with a bunch of parents. It's always tough.
Good to go.
Appreciate you taking the time. I'm excited to hear the whole story. I've heard some bits and pieces as we worked with Lily, but
yeah.
All right.
Lots of good stuff to catch me up on. So I'd like to start with the first question is kind of your guys' background. You can both speak to this as much as you like, but any background you had with basketball, with either playing yourself back in the day or coaching Lily maybe in her younger days with the rec, whatever you guys want to talk about, it'd be great to hear.
Okay. I don't really have so much experience with playing or coaching. Jeff did a little bit of coaching with Lily, not in a basketball capacity. They did softball for a little while. And Lily's really done a lot of different sports, and really basketball's the one that's stuck with her the most. But neither of us have played basketball in any kind of.
I played.
You could pick up basketball.
Right. I played maybe middle school and then like rec up to middle school, BJ. And then like as like a, late teen, 20 something, like maybe some half court pickup, you know what I mean? So nothing big, and certainly no basketball coaching whatsoever, but avid like watcher of basketball. Yeah. We both watch pro basketball a good amount, less so college, but that's probably the background you're talking about here.
Cool. And how about other sports in general? Like Laurie, did you play other sports when you were in school?
No, I mean, not anything organized. I did a lot of rollerblading. Like I was always active and just being fit. Like I think for me, that was an important part of what I want for our kids is just to be fit, like to be active and to be doing, instead of sitting. And so I think growing up, I had a lot of unstructured time. It wasn't really like team sports. It was more just being outside, riding your bike, doing that kind of stuff. So what I wanted for them was kind of the same, where we're just trying to be active, skiing or I don't know, Lily's into a lot of different activities. And I think we tried as they were younger, trying a bunch of different things to see what would stick for them. And for Lily anyway, basketball was like the thing that she liked the most out of all the stuff.
Cool.
So, yeah.
That's great.
I played baseball.
For the general, like you said, outside unstructured time, but you develop a lot of just athletic skills that translate to a lot of things.
Oh yeah. It's like stick with itness and like
engage with something active your whole life is the goal. So.
Yeah, like running. And so for me, it wasn't always ever really like a team kind of sport, but just really trying to be active and stay fit.
Cool. And the next question is really just the story of Lily, like up to date, how she started with basketball and, catch me up on all that's happened up till now.
Like I said, we, as a kid, growing up, Lily got into a bunch of different things. We tried in Barrington, softball is really big. And so we did that for a few years, and she tried dance. She's tried, lacrosse,
soccer.
We did a stint with soccer, and I think out of all the stuff.
Did you say dance?
Yeah, okay. Dance. Yeah.
She's tried a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. And so basketball really was just the right spot, though. She really looks forward to it every, winter. We got her going, like, I think in first grade in the rec, in our rec, in our town. There was a lady, Cheryl Peabody, and she just was amazing, like with the little kids, getting them really excited about basketball. And she called it Pee Wee Power, I think. And she's in Farmington now, but she just was a great influence to get the kids really excited and loving basketball.
Yeah.
And then through the years in the rec, like in elementary school, one of the parent coaches, Celeste Best, had a lot of experience. She played basketball in college and she's coached quite a bit. And so we had her as a coach, and again, just a great experience, like to have somebody there that knows a lot about basketball and coaching and can really make it fun for the kids.
Yeah, age appropriate.
Yeah. And fair and whatever else, but just really teaching them how to play basketball. So it's fun, and enjoyable. And then through middle school was kind of COVID-y for the first year that she could play. In sixth grade, there was no teams that year. And then in seventh and eighth grade, she played on the team for the school. And those experiences were probably not as good as the rec, just because there were so many different kind of dynamics feeding into it. Like, she had been off and not really played any basketball at all, like into seventh grade, and then was kind of thrown into like a varsity team where there were eighth graders on the team, and she didn't get to play very much. And it just wasn't really like a positive experience, I think. And so we were kind of more excited about eighth grade. And she did get to start in eighth grade and play more in eighth grade.
It was also, I'm interrupting just to say, when we got in touch with BJ ever was between seventh and eighth grade. Right. But go ahead with your eighth grade.
That's I'm not saying like that part of the story I was familiar with, because you guys were coming out of that seventh grade year, and like,
right. And so I think in seventh grade, like, I am hesitant to reach out and communicate so much with the coaches and change things, because I don't know that it makes that much of a difference at this point. And for Lily, I think in that seventh grade year, had she been on a JV team, it might have been better for her, because she would have just gotten to play more. But it was important to her, I think, to be on varsity maybe. And then again, in her eighth grade year, they didn't win any games at all. And so it was frustrating, because for me as a parent, like, I guess what I see as success would be like winning some, but success for Lily, I mean, she had a great time playing with her friends. Like, they had a lot of fun. The coach was one of their favorite teachers, and he really did the best that he could. There was a lot of girls that had never played basketball before. And so there was a really like a mixed bag of kids. Like, there was a couple that are, have a lot of skills and some that don't. And, just having to manage all that was a lot,
I think for her eighth grade experience, I think that from a basketball perspective, that it maybe wasn't what I had hoped for Lily, because of our, what I call our BJ experience. I was hoping that Lily would maybe take a bigger step forward than maybe she did. She did take a step forward in that she was a comfortable, handler of the ball some of the times, but she doesn't consider herself a scorer. I think what Lily took away from that season was she got to stay after school every day and hang out in the coach's classroom with her teammates, some of who she's really good friends with. And for her, the whole experience was positive. The part that we got to see, which was the games where they got their doors blown off a lot and didn't maybe improve either individually or as a team, really, BJ, it got to be a little bit like, wow, I'm not saying it was awful or anything, but it could have been better.
But yeah, so she kind of got 2 back-to-back seasons, neither of which was a great fit for moving her forward, right?
Yeah.
Oh, one other thing. One other point I wanted to make was the way that they did. I'm not saying it judgmentally. I'm trying to say it just objectively. It's a fact. The way that they put the varsity team together at Barrington Middle School is that they put all the 8th graders on the varsity team, when in fact there was some 7th graders who maybe were some better players basketball wise. Not even mentioning names, or you don't know the individuals, it doesn't matter. That there's probably some better 7th grade players than some 8th grade players. That's not how they chose to construct the team. So it is what it is.
Yeah. And I think for us, again, like the coming out of that season, Lily had kind of started talking about like AAU and wanting to continue to play on some level. And I just don't know, like that we were I think the school teams for us work in a way because of the practices are after school, the games are usually after school. It doesn't kind of bleed into the weekend and like having to go on tournaments that are, all over the place. And
it's not a lifestyle.
Yeah. And for me, I don't want to make that kind of commitment, like for her to further her basketball skills. I think we can do it other ways.
Right.
So
I agree.
And our hope for her future really is that she can kind of just keep playing basketball on some, either through the school or through some other type of teams, Yeah.
Well, I want to circle back to the 2 seasons. Like what I'm hearing is like 7th grade year, she got moved up too far to play varsity when she wasn't ready. And so didn't get much playing time.
Yeah.
And in 8th grade year, she was surrounded by a mixed bag of players where maybe she could have had a leader role, but she wasn't experienced enough or aggressive or, confident enough to like take that role, like make the team kind of, take the leadership role in that team.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And
missed opportunities on both sides. And now she's coming into, high school this fall and hasn't really had that, experience that like certifies in her mind like she's a scorer and capable basketball player.
Yeah, we saw some stretches of it at some points, and some, you'd see it for a stretch of 2 or 3 minutes in the second quarter, or for 3 minutes in the fourth quarter, where Lily would not necessarily score on successive trips, but she would put up 3 baskets within 5 trips down the floor or something. Not saying it had to go through her, but to have the confidence to be able to be like one of the players, every 3rd trip down or something. Right. She doesn't think of herself that way, I think, is a lot of it. I don't know why.
Yeah. And I think with her too, like it just kind of boils down to I think probably the confidence of her seeing herself that way. Like she has a tremendous basketball IQ. I mean, we watch basketball all the time. Like she plays like, and so she knows the plays, she knows where she's supposed to be. And I think for her, and I've heard you kind of talk about this on your podcast before too, about girls not really stepping outside of what their like role or position is supposed to be. And I think with Lily, that was probably something that held her back, where in her mind, this is my position. This is the number that I'm playing. This is the spot that I'm supposed to be in. And so I'm just going to stay here and do this and then watch what unfolds, instead of like
instigate.
Right. Knowing that like, okay, the teammate's in trouble. I need to go over and get the ball, So she knows from doing your training, like the things that she's kind of supposed to be doing. But I think she got locked into like, well, I'm playing the 2 position or whatever number it was, so I need to be over here doing this.
Right. Right. Yeah, I definitely do see that, kind of pattern memorization is a safety zone more so for girls. I think the boys are just more wild and, willing to go outside the lines a little bit more, but
right.
I definitely see that for Lily. Like, this is my contained box over here. I'm the 2, I stand here, I do this. And, it's not my job to dribble the ball. So if they're stuck, I'm going to see what unfolds. Is what you described. I think is very accurate.
Right, I'm supposed to maintain space I'm supposed to maintain
whatever's necessary to make sure we get the ball back in action and,
correct.
Right team kind of thing.
I think one other thing that I noticed a bunch, and I'm not complaining about Lily, I've said as much, is if there's a 50-50 ball, like Lily doesn't get 50% of the 50-50 balls. She gets out, maybe it's either, I'm not saying it's out efforted, it's out aggressive, I think. That's not a good word, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Right.
It's her nature though.
Sure. Yeah, I think
and that's something I don't know how to train into it like that. So I think what was also frustrating for me is that there were some girls on the team that are just natural athletes and they play, sports year round, and they have that, like, it's just a drive or motivation or aggressiveness that Lily, either she has it and she doesn't see it in herself yet, or she just doesn't have it. I don't know, which is, how you train that into a kid. Like, I don't know if you can or not.
Yeah, well, I think more and more I've concluded that, across a lot of different skills, it comes down to just a lack of certainty in my mind.
Yeah.
Like,
Confidence.
I'm not sure that the right thing is to rip that ball out of this other smaller girl maybe's hands, right? Versus like, no, actually, that is the best thing. Like, you're both holding onto it, like, throw her to the floor, rip the ball out of her hands. That's the thing to do. But
it's okay to dominate her if you're following the rules, right?
Right, it is. And if you're uncertain of that, right, that's really what I discovered. Like, it's the same with, shooting and finishing layups or attacking the baskets, where that shows up for a lot of players. Is like, I'm not quite certain enough that this is the shot I should take. Therefore, I'm going to hesitate for even a couple seconds and the opportunity pass. And then I'm never taking open shots. And, it shows up in a variety of different skills. But I think the jump ball thing, especially when you're a nice person, is, somewhat of an extension of that. It's like, I'm not sure, is that the right behavior? Like, at home, if I rip the toy out of my sibling's hands, like, I'm chastised for that. And so, like, how does that translate to basketball?
That's funny.
But
Lily would never snatch anything from anyone.
Right, exactly.
It's never been done. It's never happened. That's funny. Thinking about it.
It's kind of got to be, in this, like, you step on the court, like, you got to become a different animal in some ways, where it's like, go get the ball is the thing to do. And we got to get more comfortable with that. It's like, that's your normal operating procedures. Go rip the ball from everybody else that has it. Hopefully not your own teammates. I've had some players that do that. The other end of the spectrum is I'm ripping it from my own teammate because I went to the ball.
Right.
But yeah, it takes some doing for girls, takes some experience. I think some exposure to other girls that are playing that way certainly helps. Or it's like, oh, well, they just ripped it from me. So, next time I'm going for it. I'm going to take it back. But a lot of it is personality. But I think in general, that certainty factor with somebody just saying, go for it. Like, yes, go get the ball is the right thing to do. Is, take some repetition of that. Versus, where most coaches are not really providing that, especially in a team aspect. And, especially when it's a teacher that knows the girls, like you described, 8th grade season. It's like, we're here to manage the class and get them to play basketball, not necessarily progress their skill and aggressiveness. And, all
correct.
That.
Yeah.
Correct.
More and more, I'm trying to troubleshoot the problem I see between, typically the rec side. I think some schools vary on this, but between the rec or the school team and that AAU team, one of the parents recently described it as 5 different levels. Like, we went and tried AAU and it was 5 levels above what we were used to. And we were really not ready. Right. I've commonly thought about it like level 1, 2, and 3, but I think it's more accurate to say it's like, rec ball, school or travel ball, and then AAU ball. And it's like, there's 3 or 4 layers in between there that are missing for most players. And a lot of them are just thrown into the meat grinder and, trial and error, we're going to figure it out, or more than likely quit if it's not going well, because the meat grinder is not that fun. If you're there being annihilated in the AAU circuit and being yelled at by your coaches, and like, I'm just going to go do something else that's nicer. And
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think
where my head's at lately is, how can we provide that bridge for players where it's like, we need that slow throttle up progression of like level 3, 4, 5, and then 6, when you're hitting high school tryouts, you want to be prepared for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So any other thoughts you have on that?
For me, I think that Lily tends to Lily can try out really well. That's there's no doubt, BJ, from the first time that you saw Lily to seeing her more recently, is that she would try out pretty well, I would think. But my concern is more that when it gets to be game time, that Lily tends to I'll call it regress a bit. And she tends to end up on the back foot a bit and be a little bit cerebral about it. And I think that Lily, whether she would admit it or not, will be a little bit of now I'm in high school playing against high school girls. And there'll be some element of that, but it's back to what you keep talking about, which is confidence. And you know what I mean? Those are my thoughts though on that.
I think I guess as far as the different levels, and I've talked to Lily about this too, and I don't know. I think it's really just playing time and getting more repetitions and being more consistent with playing time. And in New Hampshire, it's snowy and wintertime, most of the year, and it's cold outside, and who wants to be, and so I think it's harder for the kids to have an unstructured, just be able to go have a pickup game at the park because it's cold all the time and nobody wants to be at the park in the wintertime. So having spots like your space or rec spaces that can be open to kids, so they have that opportunity to just say, okay, Sunday at 2:00, we're going to go have pickup games at the, just so they can get the experience of playing with different kids and
just run some.
And that way
having a group of friends to do that with is really helpful too. It's right. I think what I see, even at our gym, unless we're saying, it's Ignition League night, we're here to get up and down and compete. The open gym times, the 3 kids come in and side eye each other and shoot on their own, never talk to each other, much less, let's play one-on-one or let's do something competitive. And so, I think that's another area that we're trying to troubleshoot is really what our Ignition League is designed for is get your ball in your hands at a fast pace where you're making decisions. Because, I've really come to look at the decision, going to the repetition side, decision repetitions is really where we're lacking all the time because we're doing, stationary skills with our coach and we're doing pattern memorization with our coach. And then we're going to play live and hope those pieces somehow mix together and work out. But, the decision making of I have the ball, my teammates over there, there's one defender, it's 2-on-1 fast break. Can I make a quick decision and, get good at making that decision at a fast pace? And, there's hundreds of situations that arrive in a basketball game to get good at in that kind of way. And so, I'd agree, unless you play a lot of volume of basketball and, kind of do it by volume, by trial and error, get the experience you need to where you start to get good at that. It really takes some kind of, almost like a funnel is how I think about it, funneling your attention down to the most frequent decisions that are going to happen in the game and get good at just those, right? And there's 5 to 10 situations that happen every game, multiple times a game.
Mm-hmm.
Get good at those 5 to 10 decisions, then everything else starts to work out okay.
Right.
I think that's missing for a lot of players.
And I think with Lily, we probably moving into the summer with Oyster River, I think they might have some type of summer get ready to play. So hopefully there's something maybe through the summer that could, kind of help her get ready for tryouts.
Typically the high school programs have something through the incoming freshmen to get involved with the summer league. I think that's really fantastic when you get
it would make sense, right?
See what the coaches are like, and they get to know you, and you get to meet all the kids you're going to be trying out, or at least being on team with. And get your feet wet at that pace of play and size of players and everything else before you hit the freshman tryouts. I think it is across the whole spectrum of experience that players go through. Like freshman high school tryouts is probably the highest, stress and anxiety inducing environment, because it's like, this is the top level for most of us. And there's 100 eighth graders that are funneling into the 12 that are going to be on the freshman high school team. And like, I got to really have my act together. And, having some experience over the summer with the team and the environment there can really help reduce that, where it's like, okay, I know the coaches, I know their style, I know who else is going to be there, kind of thing. So I always encourage players to do that whenever they get the chance to get involved early with the coaching staff at the high school team. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, hopefully it'll pan out. And if it doesn't, there's, I think the high school, it seems they'll have some type of opportunities. Like if it's not on the team, we'll just have to explore it at that point. But I think both of us really just, want her to stay active, and she loves playing basketball. So I hope it works out.
Yeah. So the next question I'd like to ask is, across the whole journey so far, what has worked well? Like, what's been the best thing that's worked for you or worked for Lily?
I think probably just trying to surround her. Like when we see that there's a good experience to be had or a good opportunity, to try and, put her in those situations, like put her in situations that are going to be good for her. Like I think that our experience with the rec and just having, like, when you can see that that's a good coach in place, you just want to kind of keep that going. And then the same with reaching out to you, having really positive people that know a lot about basketball that can share that experience, and teach, and to make it fun. I think those are probably the biggest things. So just kind of being present and seeing what, is good and works, and to kind of further that.
I think, what I think stands out for me about the part that we experienced with your program is that to a coach, they all like know the kid a little bit, remember a little bit about what the keys are. And I don't know how that all works, but you guys, all the coaches, I feel like are definitely engaged. It's individualized. I think, if you need this, then that's what you get. And the other person needs that, then they get that. And I think that it's nice there because it's, there's never any, like, I feel like it's competitive, but it's not overly competitive there at all. It's competitive, it's good natured. And that's important, I think, as well. Because some of the times what I didn't like about, I don't know if I was supposed to add what didn't work, but some of the times, some of the middle school games seemed to get a little bit nasty to me. And I didn't like that kind of basketball at all. And I don't know if that's what Laurie was alluding to or not, but like, I would hope that like the games, they should be hard fought and all, but there shouldn't necessarily be hard feelings every game. Sometimes it's going to happen,
Yeah. Like,
see that, I'm involved with our Nottingham town rec department, and, certain towns that you play, regardless of the age group, even like there's going to have that certain environment where it's like, we're going Karate Kid style, sweep the leg kind of thing to win versus, we're here for third and fourth graders to compete and have fun to play basketball.
It's a Saturday afternoon, right?
All right.
It's not the Coliseum.
Yeah, I appreciate what you said, Jeff, about having the individualized approach, and what we've come to call, at least internally, the calibrated competition idea of, we want to take whoever's in our gym and like, who's their best matchup, and like we put restraint on the best player or give an advantage to the worst player so that they have an equal opportunity to actually get repetition with what they need to be working on.
Well, it also then forces or it enables people to play with people of different abilities all the time. You never know who's going to be next to you or across from you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another reason we like to have the the broader age spectrum in the gym at the same time. Like Take advantage to, younger playing older, trying to match by skill rather than by age. Because,
Yes.
grade level is like the worst indicator of basketball skill that we know of. And so
Yeah.
calibrate based on their skill ability, regardless of their size or how long they've been playing. Like, you're a skill. We actually have a rating system we're going to be rolling out this spring and summer. Calling it SOX is going to be an acronym, but basically like the martial arts belt colors, we're going to evaluate players, and like you're a white belt or a white sock in this case.
Oh, got it. Nice.
Other white and yellow sock ability players, so that's calibrated even more.
Got it.
Hope to make that a thing.
Nice.
But yeah, I really don't understand. It has to come from the coaches. I mean, the parents to some extent. When you have the team that's playing nasty, unnecessarily competitive and mean in order to win, it doesn't play out well in my experience. The karma comes back to get them, so to speak. But I really don't have any patience for that. And kids kind of adopt whatever the coach's mindset is, in my experience, which I guess because we have great coaches, we kind of have that environment at our gym very consistent. Try to curate that as much as possible.
Yeah, I think having Lily in those kind of environments is what works best for us and for her too. And again, and kind of going back to the 8th grade season, like the success and the failure of the winnings and the loss and what that really means, and keeping it in perspective. She did have a lot of fun, and the coach wasn't out there yelling at her and breaking her down, and so it could be that it's not a great situation every year, but there's always good things that come out of the experience.
The idea of trying to win games and, even keeping score. Like we had some discussion amongst the towns that I was collaborating with this year on, when it's a jamboree or whatever, like, should we even keep score? And, to me, it's like, well, yeah, it might be, what I would say, not demeaning, but it might make the kids feel bad if the score is way one-sided and they lose. But to me, it's like a measuring stick, because like the next time we go play that game, like, let's close the gap, whatever that gap was.
Yeah.
Like, we need some way to measure our success, measure our progress. And, having an 0-12 record, whatever it was for Lily, not winning a game in your 8th grade year, like, that's a measuring stick. Like, as that coach, you would hope, like, all right, varsity team last year, like we were 4-8. So let's try to get 5-8. 5-7 this year. We're trying to strive towards something. We're improving.
Yeah.
Without that, it's kind of too open-ended. Like you said, like kids show up, have fun, but we lost every game. We don't really know, did we improve from game 1 to game 12 or not? Like we're not sure. So yeah, I guess with all of my peaceful coaching philosophy and everything else, like that's where I kind of go against the rest of basketball or sports culture that is trying to do that. It's like, actually, I do want to keep score. I want to strive for success and still keep it positive and peaceful, and keep the kids striving toward something progressive all the time.
And I think that's possible. Like it's just, and hopefully we'll keep having those experiences through and forward.
Yeah.
Seek them out.
So I guess cycle back through your memory banks of the journey and tell me what else has not worked, across the spectrum of experience.
I think probably for me, my biggest thing is I probably need to communicate better and learn how to better communicate with the coaching staff, I guess. So I feel like I can have a constructive conversation without maybe being too critical, of what's happening. And and then I think if I had done, some of that communicating with the coaching either this year or the year before, maybe there would have been some different outcome. I don't know. Know.
Well, take me to the JV, I guess the 7th grade year, where you thought like she'd be a better fit JV. She got to, she wanted to play varsity, it sounded like.
Right.
The coaches saw something in her that said, she should be a varsity player as a 7th grader. Mm-hmm. So like, what would you have liked to have said to the coach at that point?
I probably some of the kids this year played on the varsity team and the JV team. And so I, at that point, probably could have gone to the coaches and said, can she try the JV team and see like where she is with that, to get more experience so she can get more playing time. And had I communicated that with them, we probably would have gotten more playing time, like in the JV side of things, I just I didn't try. I didn't make an attempt to ask.
I think that's a great point. That's something I talk about a lot at the high school level, JV to varsity, like all the players always want to be on the highest level team, but it's like practice with the highest level team and sit the bench the whole game and not really get on the floor versus, you could play 4 quarters of the JV game and then play 2 quarters of the varsity game and have a lot different. You think about, you go back, 2 years ago now, the compound interest of Lily playing every game, the JV team for that whole 7th grade season would have made her a lot different position going into the 8th grade season.
True.
Like I said, for the high school is more common conversation, but the players always want to be the highest level. The parents often want, whether the bragging rights or, they want their player to be challenged more at the higher level, but, it's a very delicate balance of, little to no playing time at the higher level is way worse than a lot of playing time at a lower level. Because, the confidence factor happens when you're the dominant player in the JV team and like you can do what you want and try things that under higher pressure with better competition you're not going to attempt. Suddenly you're experimenting and trial and error and you actually greatly benefit by that. And so, I think, having that conversation and, keeping her down is how most people would phrase that, but like giving her more experience, more repetition for her whole 7th grade season is a big factor for sure.
Yeah. And looking back on it, like at tail end, you just have more, I guess, not clarity. I just
hindsight.
Yeah. And I don't know, for me, I just need to be more focused on communicating and
What would you like to have communicated, I guess, in hindsight for the 8th grade year? Like,
I guess with this past year, it would have been more so, she got playing time, but I think with them, it was just more of and I didn't realize this more so until I started listening to some of your podcasts where you were talking about like the numbering. And I didn't realize that kind of sort of pigeonholed some of the kids. Like if you get like the numbering where and I don't even really still understand about the numbers and what that means.
Sure. Yeah.
But
it's almost a cliche now in my mind. It's like math teacher from the school. I understand numbers. So like, I'm going to go and find the numbers to the players and like, it's really, like I talk about a lot of things are designed for the coach's benefit, like to keep my brain less chaotic, more in control. Like I'm just going to number my 10 players, like you both are a 1, you both are a 2 and so on. My 10 players each have a number and I can rotate them by number and, I can draw things on my whiteboard better by number. And like, it's a way better experience for the coach's brain, but the players, like you're saying, are pigeonholed by having that really constrained role, right?
Right. And that, and then 2, just probably offering support, which Jeff and I both, he probably he understands a lot more about basketball, but neither of us offered the coach any, we both saw what challenges he had with all the girls. And neither one of us were kind of stepping up to say, okay, let's go help, and we didn't do that. And I don't know that he would have, if we had offered, I don't know that he would have taken us,
That's not my personality to do that. Like to be like, let me tell you some things about basketball, coach. Be like,
you can try to make that low key as possible. Like, hey, I want to be your practice assistant. Like, I don't need to be on the bench in games, but I see 12 girls, 9 of which really need help with skills and just getting better at basketball. And so like, I'll show up and do what you need to do so we can at least run both baskets in the practice gym, whatever.
Yeah, so I think we could have done some things differently in the communication piece, and maybe the offering to help, and we, and like I said, not sure that he would have that would have changed anything, but it would have, I don't know.
It's good to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very common thing that coaches have a lot of ego about taking on help too. It's like they want to, be the person, be the authority in the gym and control everything themselves. And some coaches are not willing to accept help. Something we started doing this past fall, was what we call a practice audit, where we would come in and watch what was being done in practice and just try to offer some advice. Like, okay, take what you're already doing, tweak it this way, use more of the baskets or more basketballs, whatever, keep more players engaged with more repetitions, all that kind of stuff. And so we're trying to find ways to make it easy, like you're describing, make it easy for you as a parent to offer your coach us as a resource, where you don't want to step in and say, I don't really know basketball, but I want to help. You can say like, hey, here's BJ and his team. Like they'll come and do a lot of stuff in an hour with a practice, and we'll get to meet girls that might want to train with us in the future. Like it's a great environment, great situation to just meet more people for us. But the coach at least gets, okay, I know the team strategy or whatever I want, but here's some pieces of how to get the girls more skilled to actually execute.
Logistics a bit.
Most the struggle point is, especially that 7th, 8th grade age group. Like the coach wants to be like, the chess master. I want my number system and all these pieces to move in a certain way, and like the girl can't catch a pass. Half of them can't make a shot. 3 of them are going to dribble off their foot or lose the ball before they get going attacking. And so it's really like, can we dribble, pass, and shoot? And then maybe your numbering system will work a little bit. So anyway, very common struggle. And so, despite you kind of, be kicking yourself, I want to say, at the worst of not communicating, not stepping up, it's kind of every parent's same dilemma. It's like, what can I do to help when the coach doesn't want help, or the gap is just so big between what he wants to do with the team right now and where our skill level actually is. Like, I don't know if I can connect that dot or not. But anything else that you would point to as kind of what did not work well over the course of the journey here?
I mean, I think,
you got a great rec experience. Like that's a good time. Specific coaches that were just great people, it sounded like, and really made the experience really well.
Yeah, and it's the same kids, like in the community, like you see the same kids like through the program and now into the middle school experience. Like it's just interesting and fun to see how the players have progressed through the years. And it was really good program.
Cool. So the final question I like to ask is, what's your advice to parents kind of following in your footsteps behind you, like the next wave or two of Barrington kids, or, anybody that might listen to this in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, now that, Lily's gone through all of that, what would you tell parents that are about to go through part of that? What could help them along their journey?
I guess if you see something, that's, I guess, maybe not working for your player, to just don't hold back and to say something, and in hopes of maybe making it better, and if you see them and maybe not the best experience, just try and take some positives away. Like, the whole roses and thorns thing, everything's going to have good and bad, and to try to just maybe focus more on the better parts, and just get them in good situations with good coaching. And if it's not going to happen in the rec or in their school, then to look for other avenues, like your program, or if there's other, AAU or whatever the travel team in the next levels are, to look for other options, because they're out there, to be had. So.
Yeah, it sounds like the best thing you guys did was really pay close attention to, this coach is really working for Lily. Like, we want to stay with that as long as possible. And then, maybe this situation's not working, so we're going to go a different direction. Or, I guess at least in hindsight, I wish I would have said something to try to change that situation.
Yeah.
That's great advice. How about any thoughts?
I think maybe something similar would be to be more communicative and to approach it, like you said, maybe from a constructive side, like, hey, I thought maybe this, or you know what I mean?
Sure.
Not necessarily have to come at it. You can come at it at an angle and perhaps be gentle about it too, as opposed to being not.
Support, I think, is a great thought. A lot of parents, I guess you guys kind of described this too, like most people don't want to step in and say, I'm going to be a full-on assistant coach and be there every practice and every game, because that's a huge commitment to begin with. And it's also, outside of most people's, expertise to say, like, I'm going to be an assistant basketball coach for my daughter's 8th grade team. Right. I think what most coaches would accept, and, kind of to your point, coming at an angle is like, hey, I want to be, support, I think is a great word. I want to be practice support, help you set up the gym, I can be there for run a basket, like just duplicate what I see you
give
doing.
A hand.
I can do on the other end for you and get more girls engaged. What I often see, pet peeve of mine is to walk in any practice and see 5 players running an offense against no defense and 7 players sitting against the wall under the basket watching. And meanwhile, there's 5 other hoops and 2 other coaches or whatever other resources are going on there, and none of that's being utilized. And we're talking about, limitation of gym time for practice, and the players need more repetitions. And, a lot of coaches are just not thinking in that way. And I think having a parent or 2 that could support, just getting more of the girls in action, doing something and making better use of our practice time could really be a big leverage for a lot of teams, where and it's compound interest over the course of a season. Like every girl got another 15 minutes of dribbling in and making a layup, and suddenly we won a game where we made 3 more layups than the other team. And without that practice, that wouldn't have happened. So a lot of little compounding effects. But anyway, that's the end of my list of questions. You guys have any questions or thoughts for me? We wrap up.
Well, I guess for Lily, really, I guess what we're going to keep focusing on is, just building her skills. And I got one of your emails about something new coming out in the spring. Could you talk a little bit about that, or do you have time to talk about it?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. We'll spread the word to more people as they hear the podcast here. So it's something I've had in mind for a while. Is really like a lot of things, it's floating in the back of my head for a year or more before I take action on it. But I actually bought a domain back in the first week of January that was the 1,000-point scorer. And 1,000-point scorer is like a huge ideal for a lot of high school basketball. To score 1,000 points in your 4 years of high school, it's not a very common thing. I think it should be a more common thing. And so the way I think about it is really, can you score at a rate that would put you in that category? So taking the back of the napkin approach of numbers, 20 games per season for a high school player over 4 seasons. To get 1,000 points, you need 12.5 points per game. And so that's where I put my target for players, any player, like whatever level they're playing at, like, can you score 13 points per game, for instance? Right. And I think that's achievable, like make 2 3-point shots, make 2 layups, make a couple free throws, you're there. It's not that hard to do. And so, where I'm always trying to work is getting people more efficient at the decision making and the skills and everything else that allows them to, improvise and really adapt to the situation and come up with a way to score, because that's really the name of the game. And so what we're starting to roll out, I'm kind of approaching it as a group of 6 players that I'm going to work with for a whole year. And we're going to do some individual sessions and some group sessions and really take whatever's going on with them. Again, the individualized approach. And can we find a way to pull 12.5 points per game out of what your capability is? And, if not now, then, let's get some baseline metrics. You got to like we talked about with scoring games, like let's measure where we are so we can measure where we're going and start those down.
Start at 4 points a game and work towards 10 or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. And so basically following the model that we've done with the formula program, we've now escalated. So working with me is now the premium package is $3,000 for the 12-week course to do all the stuff on the court and to do the injury prevention and our film feedback. So we're basically rolling all of that into a year package. So it's going to be $10,000 for a year to work personally with me and in a exclusive group and have the injury prevention with Coach Kelly and the film feedback and the game film review, which is really something we're trying to develop more and more, to take actual film from games and feed that back to the player in a way that allows her to see, okay, here we started game 1 of the season. Here's where we were in, game 4 and game 8 and game 12 and the progress we're making and what we need to keep addressing. And so, I'm really trying to elevate what I'm doing on my side to work with players that are really in that mindset where I not only want to play high school basketball, but I want to go for the high ideal of being 1,000-point scorer in high school. So that, freshman year, I'm not just trying to get on the team and, survive and socialize with my friends. I'm going into this, I'm going to be one of the top scorers on this team and trying to get my 12.5 points per game. Mm-hmm. And, I'm going to be opening this up to players that are already in high school. And then we're taking, all right, how many points have you scored so far? Maybe you're behind a little bit. So now it's 15 points a game we need to get in our junior and senior year and see how we can push the envelope. And that'll be tying in with our rating system I talked about earlier too, the SOX, which is an acronym for the System for Objective Classification of Knowledge and Skill. Is SOX. And we're going to be handing out colored socks to our players that go through the eval process for that. Here's your blue pair of socks, and here's the checklist of what you need to move to the purple level of socks. And start to make that a thing so that it's not, I'm a elite level 8th grader. What does that actually mean? Nobody has a clue, but elite sounds good. So we're going to go play for that elite team and hope for the best. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that was a long-winded answer to your question, but kind of gives you the broad, the big picture of that, what I call the 1,000-point scorer program, trying to get kids, if nothing else, thinking in that mindset of, 12.5 points a game is not that hard. We're going to get that.
Right. Show them what's possible by setting the goal. Yeah, that's great.
What's possible. And, we had actually a couple of good examples this year in the high school boys division. I don't know how much you guys follow that, but out in, I'm going to get the schools wrong now, but Brody Frink, I think he's at Trinity High School over in Manchester Concord area, but he's a sophomore and just hit his 1,000 points already.
Wow, that's awesome.
He's scoring at the rate where he could reach the 2,000 point score, which I think there's been a total of a handful in all of New Hampshire basketball history that have had 2,000 points in a high school career. And so, I think that stuff like that's inspiring to me. It's this kid just did 1,000 points in 2 years. 4 years is not that big a deal. Just getting people in that
consistent.
So I'm excited about that as a project for me and see what players are interested in doing that kind of commitment.
Yeah, I think that sounds great. Just keeping it fun and keeping it competitive in a good way. And
a lot of gamifying it. There's so much negativity about, when you get to higher levels, you get yelled at more about what you did wrong on the most minuscule mistakes. And, I'm all about where are you and what's the forward progress that you're making all the time? It really does changes your whole mentality and keeps it a lot more fun for a lot longer, I think, for players, which is what I'm all about.
Nice.
Yeah, that's good. Well, cool. All right. Well, thanks for talking to us.
Yeah, thanks a lot for taking some time.
Great to capture your basketball journey. Appreciate you guys coming on.
Always appreciate you, BJ. Have a good rest of your trip down there.
Thank you. See you soon.
Bye-bye.